Notes on set and get methods. Now that we've seen a number of class definitions, several times we've come across cases where we've had pairs of set and get methods that enabled us to manipulate individual instance variables within objects of a given class. For example, in the last version of our time class, the one called time 2, we provided set hour and get hour to manipulate the hour instance variable, set minute and get minute to manipulate the minute instance variable, and set second and get second to manipulate the second instance variable. Now, the reason those methods are important, actually there's multiple reasons why they're important. The first reason is that we don't want to expose each of those pieces of data as public information. We want to provide controlled access to that data. So as the designer of a class, if you make your data private and then provide set and get methods for accessing the data, you have total control over what the user is allowed to do or see inside of the objects of your class. So in the case of the hour instance variable, we made sure with our set hour method that the hour was always within range, and if it wasn't, we at least set it back to 0 to maintain the hour in a state that was consistent with the use of a time 2 object. And that might be a case where your set method would actually indicate an error to the calling method, indicating that they provided a value out of range. We'll get to that again in the second of the 2-course sequence where we talk about exception handling. But the key is that a set method does give access to the underlying data, but in a way that is totally controlled by you, number one. And then separately, the set method doesn't even have to correspond to a specific data member. Remember, we were talking about the concept of changing the representation of the time from hour, minute, and second to a single integer representing the total number of seconds in the day. In that case, there is no hour variable. The hour is a portion of the concept of total number of seconds in the day. So the set method could manipulate that total number of seconds rather than a specific hour variable. And similarly, you have the same issue with get methods as well. Get methods don't necessarily have to be one-for-one with underlying data members or instance variables of your class. Take, for example, a rectangle class. Let's assume we have a rectangle class that maintains the width and the height of a rectangle. Well, if we know the width and the height, we know how to calculate the area of that rectangle. We don't have to store an area variable inside an object of class rectangle, but we could provide a getArea method for that class, which infers the area from the other instance variables inside the class. And in that case, it would calculate the width times the height to determine the area of the rectangle. So it's often the case that a get method corresponds to a single piece of data in the underlying object, but it is not necessarily a requirement. A couple of other things about set and get methods. Certainly, it is often the case that you will provide set and get methods that are public so that client code can manipulate the private data, the private instance variables in your class, and this helps protect the client code against future change to your class as well. Again, if the underlying implementation details change, things like the actual instance variables or the way that the bodies of your methods are implemented, those types of things need to be hidden from the client code so that if those changes are made to one of your classes, the client code will still work with the new version of your class. Another thing that you should keep in mind is that you don't need to provide set and get methods for every piece of private data. These capabilities should only be provided when it makes sense for client code to have access to them. One other note about get methods in particular, there's a concept called predicate methods, methods that start with the word is. And these typically are applied to Boolean instance variables of your class, and they return true or false. So if you have an instance variable that is a Boolean instance variable. The set method for such a variable would still be called set and then some continuation of that name that's related to the variable. And the get method would not be called get by convention in Java. Instead, it would be called is and then the continuation of the name. So for example, if I had a piece of data called empty of type Boolean inside of one of my classes, I might provide a set empty method and an is empty method to meet the naming conventions of Java.
Looking to advance your career by acquiring new skills? Tired of expensive off-site training programs? Wish you could learn from the best instructors in the industry? Look no further than Live Lessons, self-paced personal video instruction by the world's leading technology publishers. Each live lesson comes with a DVD featuring 3 to 4 hours of instructor-led classroom training, sample program code that allows you to work along with your personal instructor, and an example-rich study guide. Live lessons allow you to watch the entire course from start to finish, or navigate directly to any of the individual lessons. You'll literally watch over the shoulder of your instructor as he shows you how to build state-of-the-art applications. Live lessons, the power of the world's leading technology experts at your fingertips. To learn more, visit mylivelessons.com today.